Part 1. Governance and Administration of the United States Figure Skating Association. Bylaws of the United States Figure Skating Association. As amended to May 5, 2018. Article I. Name. The name of this organization is the United States Figure Skating Association. For all purposes, this name may be abbreviated to read U.S. Figure Skating. This organization may also be known as and conduct business under the name U.S. Figure Skating. Article 2. Objectives. Mission. As the national governing body, the mission of the United States Figure Skating Association is to provide programs to encourage participation and achievement in the sport of figure skating on ice, and particularly a. to serve as the national governing body in the sport of figure skating on ice as recognized by the United States Olympic Committee, USOC, and to serve as the United States member of the International Skating Union, ISU. B. To take all steps necessary to regulate and govern figure skating on ice throughout the United States, including the raising of funds to support activities of U.S. figure skating by dues, the sale of publications, the conduct of competitions, ice show assessments, sanction fees and any other lawful means, provided that none of the income of U.S. figure skating inures to the private profit of any of its members. C. To strive to provide a safe environment for its members that is free of misconduct and harassment. D. To define and maintain uniform standards of skating proficiency. E. To prescribe rules for the holding of and eligibility for tests, competitions, exhibitions, ice shows and all other figure skating activities. To qualify and appoint judges, referees and other officials for all tests, competitions and other figure skating events. F. To encourage, guide and assist in the organization of local ice skating clubs, and the attaining of full participation in figure skating by individuals, groups, clubs, schools, colleges and universities throughout the United States. G. To organize and sponsor competitions and exhibitions for the purpose of stimulating interest in figure skating on the part of all persons. To assist financially or otherwise, in accordance with the rules of U.S. figure skating, the participants traveling to and from and attending such competitions and exhibitions, who would otherwise be unable to participate therein. H. To encourage those persons who have demonstrated an ongoing interest in figure skating to continue their participation in figure skating, and where possible, to obtain a college or university education. I. To provide an equal opportunity to eligible athletes, coaches, trainers, managers, administrators and officials to participate in eligible athletic competition without discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, age, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, national origin, or any other status protected by federal, state or local law, where applicable. To provide fair notice and an opportunity for a hearing to any eligible athlete, coach, trainer, manager, administrator or official before declaring such individual ineligible to participate. J. To select members of the board of directors and athlete representatives without discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, age, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, national origin, or any other status protected by federal, state or local law, where applicable. K. To submit to binding arbitration conducted in accordance with the commercial arbitration rules of the American Arbitration Association in any controversy involving its recognition as a national governing body, as provided for in Chapter 2205 and successor sections of the Ted Stevens Olympic and Amateur Sports Act, 36 U.S.C. Section 220501 et. Sc., or involving the opportunity of any athlete, coach, trainer, manager, administrator or official to participate in athletic competition, as provided for in the bylaws of the USOC. L. To support, by contributions from U.S. Figure Skating and its Memorial Fund, other charitable and educational organizations, which are themselves exempt from taxation under Section 501(c)(3) of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, as from time to time amended, and m. to ensure that the foregoing objectives are within the meaning of Section 501(c)(3) of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, as from time to time amended, and that the activities of U.S. figure skating, both direct and indirect, exclusively further these objectives. Article 3. Fiscal year. The fiscal year begins on July 1st of each year and ends on June 30th the following year. Article 4. Jurisdiction. Section 1 Jurisdiction. U.S. figure skating has jurisdiction of figure skating activities on ice in the United States. Section 2 Geographical divisions. For the purposes of regulation and control, the geographical area under the jurisdiction of U.S. figure skating is divided into 3 sections as follows. A. Eastern Section, Connecticut, Delaware, District of Columbia, Florida, Georgia, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Vermont, Virginia and West Virginia. B. Midwestern Section, Alabama, Arkansas, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, New Mexico, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and Wisconsin. C. Pacific Coast Section, Alaska, Arizona, California, Hawaii, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, Washington and Wyoming. D. For synchronized skating only, the state of Colorado is in the Pacific Coast Geographical Division. Article V. Membership. Section 1 Classification. U.S. figure skating has 9 types of membership. A. Clubs which foster figure skating, known as member clubs. B. Individual persons registered with U.S. figure skating who are members of a member club or a collegiate club. C. Individual persons who are not home club members of any member club, known as individual members. D. Honorary members. E. Collegiate club and school affiliated members. F. Learn to Skate USA members. G. Supportive members. H. Synchronized skating, theater on ice team members, and I. Introductory members. Section 2 Member clubs. Member clubs consist of A. Full member clubs, B. Provisional member clubs, and C. Such other classes as may from time to time be determined by the governing council. Any club fostering figure skating may apply in writing for membership and, if satisfactory and upon compliance with all requirements of U.S. figure skating, may be elected a provisional or full member club by a vote of 2/3 of the votes cast of the governing council present in person or by proxy at an annual meeting. If an application for membership is received in the period between meetings of the governing council, the applicant may be admitted to interim membership until the next annual meeting of the governing council in such manner and upon such terms as may be set forth in the official rules of U.S. figure skating. Interim and provisional member clubs have only such privileges as are specified therein. Section 3 Individual members. A. A person not a home club member of any member club. B. A person may become an individual member upon written application and compliance with the requirements of U.S. figure skating. C. Individual membership will automatically terminate when an individual member joins a member club as a home club member. Section 4 Honorary members. A. A person elected as such by a vote of 2/3 of the votes cast of the governing council present in person or by proxy at an annual meeting for such terms as the governing council may specify in said vote. B. Have no voting rights with respect to the government of U.S. figure skating, but may be accorded the privilege of speaking when present at official meetings of U.S. figure skating, including but not limited to governing council, provided, however, that if such person is also a member in any other membership category, such person will have and may exercise voting rights and privileges available to them by virtue of such other membership, including as a delegate to the governing council. C. May serve, if elected or appointed, in any office or position and exercise all voting and other rights pertaining to the office or position so held. Section 5 Collegiate clubs and school affiliated members. A consist of individual schools, colleges and universities which agree to abide by the rules of U.S. figure skating. B. Have no voting rights with respect to the government of U.S. figure skating. C. Any college or university may become a collegiate club member, and any school may become a school-affiliated member at any time upon written application, compliance with the requirements of U.S. figure skating and approval of its application by the Membership Committee. Section 6. Learn to Skate USA members. A. Persons participating in Learn to Skate USA programs. B. Are not eligible for participation in the official test structure. C. Have no voting rights with respect to the government of U.S. figure skating. Section 7. Supportive members. A. Organizations and individuals who voluntarily support the sport of figure skating through the payment of annual dues to U.S. figure skating. B. Sports organizations consisting of not-for-profit corporations, federations, unions, associations, clubs or other groups organized in the United States which sponsor or conduct programs in the sport of figure skating on ice may apply to the Membership Committee to become organizational supportive members, as may associations of vendors and other like organizations subject to the Board of Directors' approval. C. Have no voting rights with respect to the government of U.S. figure skating. Section 8. Synchronized skating, theater on ice team members. A. Consist of registered members who are subject to the rules of U.S. figure skating. B. Have no voting rights with respect to the government of U.S. figure skating. C. May become a synchronized skating, theater on ice team member at any time upon written application, compliance with the requirements of U.S. figure skating and approval of its application by the Membership Committee. Section 9. Introductory members. A. Individuals who have never been a full member of U.S. figure skating as defined in Section 1, B, or an individual member as defined in Section 1, C, of this article. B. May join only as members of a member club and will be accorded all benefits and privileges of such membership. C. Will receive a special discounted membership rate for 1 year only. D. No person may be an introductory member for more than 1 year even if their membership lapses. Article VI. Government. Section 1. Governing Council. The government of U.S. figure skating is vested in a governing council, which consists of delegates appointed or elected in accordance with Article 7 of these bylaws. Section 2. Board of Directors. The management of the business and affairs of U.S. figure skating is vested in and exercised by or under the authority of a board of directors, which consists of the persons specified in Article 8, Section 2, of these bylaws. Article 7. Delegates to the Governing Council. Section 1. Qualifications and tenure. Delegates to the Governing Council. A. Must be registered members who are at least 18 years of age and are qualified in accordance with the official rules of U.S. figure skating. B. Are appointed or elected annually as of February 1 to serve for 1 year or until their successors are appointed or elected. Section 2. Appointment of full member club delegates. Each active full member club, by action of its duly constituted governing body, must appoint from among its registered home club members a number of delegates, based on the total number of registered members of such full member club during the preceding fiscal year, as shown in the following table. A. These delegates must meet the qualifications set forth in Section 1 of this article. B. A certificate of appointment, duly signed by the authorized officer of such full member club, must be filed with the U.S. Figure Skating Secretary in care of U.S. Figure Skating Headquarters. Number of total registrations. Number of delegates. Number of total registrations. Number of delegates. 25 but fewer than 51. 450 but fewer than 557. 50 but fewer than 102. 550 but fewer than 658. 100 but fewer than 153. 650 but fewer than 759. 150 but fewer than 254. 750 but fewer than 850. 10. 250 but fewer than 355. 850 but fewer than 950. 11. 350 but fewer than 456. 950 or more. 12. Section 3. Election of individual member delegates. The individual members from each section may elect, from among those of their number qualified under Section 1 of this article, a number of delegates for that section in proportion to the number of individual members registered in that section during the preceding fiscal year, as shown in the following table. Number of individual members. Number of delegates. Number of individual members. Number of delegates. 25 but fewer than 51, 450 but fewer than 557. 50 but fewer than 102, 550 but fewer than 658. 100 but fewer than 153, 650 but fewer than 759. 150 but fewer than 254, 750 but fewer than 850, 10. 250 but fewer than 355, 850 but fewer than 950, 11. 350 but fewer than 456, 950 or more, 12. A. U.S. Figure Skating Headquarters will determine the procedures for implementing the individual member delegate election process and will provide these procedures to the individual members with the announcement of the meeting of the Governing Council, as described in Article 9, Section 3, of these bylaws. B. The number of candidates, as shown in the table in this Section 3, in each section receiving the most votes will be certified as a delegates for the individual members of that section. Section 4 Athlete delegates. They are equally divided among ladies, men, pairs, I-stance and synchronized skating. B. Have, collectively, the number of votes equaling not less than 20% of the total permanent member club and individual member votes registered at the prior year's Governing Council in order to provide the athlete delegates with not less than 20% of the voting power in the Governing Council, as required by Article 16, Section 5, of these bylaws. These votes will be equally divided among the athlete delegates, with any fractions rounded up to a whole number. If, at any time during a meeting of the Governing Council, the votes assigned to the athlete delegates fall below 20% of the total number of votes of the delegates registered in person or by proxy, the total number of athlete delegate votes will be increased by the number necessary to achieve 20% of the voting power in the Governing Council as required by Article 16, Section 5, of these bylaws. The additional votes will be assigned to, and retained by, the chair of the Athletes Advisory Committee, or in such chair's absence, his or her athlete delegate designee, for the duration of the meeting. C. The athlete delegates to the Governing Council are the Athletes Advisory Committee members elected by the athletes in compliance with ACR 1.10. Section 5 Vacancies. Full member clubs, athlete members and individual members may fill a vacancy among their delegates by filing the appropriate certificate of appointment or election with the U.S. Figure Skating Secretary in care of U.S. Figure Skating Headquarters. Section 6 Observers. A. Collegiate clubs and provisional member clubs do not have the right, by virtue of such membership status, to appoint delegates to meetings of the Governing Council. They may designate observers to attend meetings of the Governing Council. Such observers, when present, may be accorded the privileges of the floor. B. Honorary members, individual members, members of member clubs, collegiate clubs, duly authorized representatives of school-affiliated members and supportive members, and synchronized skating, theater on ice team members may attend meetings of the Governing Council as observers and, when present, will likewise be accorded the privileges of the floor. Section 7 Voting Rights. On all matters submitted to a vote of the Governing Council, the athlete delegates as a group and each full member club are entitled to the same number of votes as the number of delegates to which they are entitled pursuant to Sections 4 and 2 respectively of this article. Each individual member delegate is entitled to 1 vote. Observers have no vote at meetings of the Governing Council. No member or class of members except delegates is entitled to vote on matters concerning the purposes, government and management of the affairs of U.S. figure skating except as provided for in these bylaws or as prescribed by law. Article 8. Board of Directors. Section 1 Powers and Duties. The Board of Directors possesses all the powers and duties necessary or desirable for the management of the business and affairs of U.S. figure skating, except such powers and duties as are reserved solely for the Governing Council or otherwise limited by these bylaws. Section 2 Composition and Qualifications. The voting members of the Board of Directors consist of A. The President, B. The 3 Vice Presidents each representing a different section, C. The Secretary, D. The Treasurer, E. The 4 Group Coordinators as specified in Article 16, Section 3. F2 Coaches actively engaged in national or international athletic coaching of figure skating on ice, and G3 Athlete members of the Board of Directors elected pursuant to Article 15, Section 4, B. H. In addition, those persons specified in Section 4 of this article and honorary members elected in accordance with Section 5 of this article will also be members of the Board of Directors. Each voting member of the Board of Directors must be I. At least 18 years of age, 2. A registered member in good standing of U.S. figure skating, and 3. Otherwise qualified in accordance with the official rules of U.S. figure skating. Section 3 Terms. The elected members of the Board of Directors, other than the officers and the athlete members of the Board, will be elected for a term of 1 year each and may hold office for no more than 3 consecutive terms. The terms of service for officers are specified in Article X, Section 2, of these bylaws. The terms of service for athlete members of the Board of Directors are specified in Article 15, Section 4, B, of these bylaws. Section 4 Ex officio and additional members. A. The immediate past president, the appointed ISU representative, the representative to the USAC Athletes Advisory Council, and those office holders on the ISU representing the sport of figure skating are non-voting ex officio members of the Board of Directors. B. An athlete member, elected pursuant to Article 15, Section 4, B, and 3 additional individuals, 1 each named from the Professional Skaters Association, Ice Skating Institute and the U.S. Ice Rink Association from among their membership, are non-voting members of the Board of Directors. C. Ex officio and additional members of the Board of Directors may attend in-person meetings of the Board of Directors and, when present, may be accorded the privilege of speaking. Unless expressly invited, ex officio and additional members of the Board of Directors may not participate in executive sessions of the Board of Directors. Section 5 Honorary Members. An honorary member of the Board of Directors is a person elected as such by a 2/3 vote of the Board of Directors present in person at a meeting for such term as the Board of Directors may specify in said vote. A. Honorary members of the Board of Directors have no vote therein. B. However, they may serve, if elected or appointed, in any office or position in U.S. figure skating and exercise all voting and other rights pertaining to such office or position. C. Honorary members of the Board of Directors may attend in-person meetings of the Board of Directors and, when present, may be accorded the privilege of speaking. Unless expressly invited, honorary members of the Board of Directors may not participate in executive sessions of the Board of Directors. Section 6 Representatives from other figure skating sports organizations. U.S. figure skating will provide for reasonable direct representation on its Board of Directors for any sports organization which, in the sport for which recognition is sought, A. Conducts, on a level of proficiency appropriate for the selection of eligible athletes to represent the United States in international amateur athletic competition, a national program, or regular national amateur athletic competition, and B. Ensures that such representation will reflect the nature, scope, quality, and strength of the programs and competitions of such amateur sports organization in relation to all other such programs and competitions in such sport in the United States. C. Representatives from other figure skating sports organizations may attend in-person meetings of the Board of Directors and, when present, may be accorded the privilege of speaking, but will have no vote. Section 7 Attendance by Permanent Committee Chairs. The chairs of the permanent committees specified in Article 16 of These bylaws may attend in-person meetings of the Board of Directors and, if present, may be accorded the privilege of speaking, but will have no vote. Section 8 Chair of the Board. The President will act as the Chair of the Board of Directors. Section 9 Voting Rights. Voting members of the Board of Directors are entitled to only one vote on the board, even though they may be members in more than one of the classes of voting members constituting the Board of Directors. Section 10 Reports of Action. All actions of the Board of Directors will be reported to the Governing Council not later than the next ensuing meeting of said council and will be subject to alteration or cancellation by the Governing Council, provided that no rights or acts of third parties are adversely affected thereby. Section 11 Non-discrimination. Members of the Board of Directors will be selected without discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, age, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, national origin, or any other status protected by federal, state or local law, where applicable. Section 12 Removal. Voting members of the Board of Directors may be removed as follows. A. Officers. Officers may be removed in the manner set forth in Article X, Section 7, of these bylaws. B. Athlete members. An athlete member of the Board of Directors may be removed at any time for cause by a 2/3 vote of the Athletes Advisory Committee, excluding the vote of the affected athlete, provided that I. do notice of the meeting of the Athletes Advisory Committee, or of the proposal that the Athletes Advisory Committee take action without a meeting, has been given to the affected athlete, and 2. The affected athlete is afforded a fair opportunity to be heard by or to submit a written statement to the Athletes Advisory Committee prior to action by the Athletes Advisory Committee. See other voting members of the board. Members of the Board of Directors, other than described in paragraphs A and B of this Section 12, may be removed at any time for cause by a vote of 2/3 of the votes cast of the Governing Council. Delegates present in person or by proxy, provided, however, that I. do notice of the meeting of the Governing Council, or of the proposal that the Governing Council take action without a meeting in accordance with the provisions of Article 9, Section 19, of these bylaws, has been given to the affected director and 2. The affected director is afforded a fair opportunity to be heard by or to submit a written statement to the Governing Council prior to action by the Governing Council. Section 13 Vacancies. A. Any vacancy in athlete positions on the Board of Directors will be filled by a vote by the athletes in the same manner athletes are elected to serve on the Board of Directors. B. All vacancies occurring among the elected voting members of the Board of Directors, other than vacancies in athlete positions on the Board of Directors, will be filled by an affirmative vote of a majority of the remaining directors. C. A director elected to fill a vacancy will be elected for the unexpired term of their predecessor in office and may be elected thereafter to serve for the maximum number of terms allowed by these bylaws. Article 9. Meetings of Governing Council and Board of Directors. Section 1 Annual Meeting of the Governing Council. The annual meeting of the Governing Council. It will be held during the months of April or May at the date, time and place selected and announced by the President with the approval of the Board of Directors not later than the preceding annual meeting of the Board of Directors. B. Is the annual meeting of the members for the purposes of the Colorado Revised Nonprofit Corporation Act as hereafter amended from time to time, and the corresponding provisions of any subsequent law. C. Will include a caucus of each of the 3 geographic sections of U.S. figure skating. A principal purpose of the caucus will be to elect the members of the nominating committee established in Article 15 of these bylaws. Each caucus will be convened at the call of the appropriate sectional vice president, or that sectional vice president's designee. The caucus will precede the convening of the Governing Council at a time specified in the notice of the annual meeting of the Governing Council. Section 2 Special Meetings of the Governing Council. Special meetings of the Governing Council may be called at any time. A. Upon the written request of 10% of the full member clubs. B. At the request of the President. C. At the request of a majority of the delegates to the Governing Council or D. At the request of a majority of the Board of Directors. Section 3 Announcements and Notices of Meetings of the Governing Council. A. An announcement of the date and place of each annual meeting will be posted on the U.S. Figure Skating website no fewer than 4 months prior to the date of the meeting. Once posted, an email will be sent to all member clubs, collegiate clubs, school-affiliated members, honorary members, individual members, athlete delegates, committee chairs and to all members of the Board of Directors, informing them that the information is available and of its location. B. Notice of meetings of the Governing Council will be posted on the U.S. Figure Skating members-only website no fewer than 20 days or more than 60 days before the date of the meeting. C. The notices of meetings of the Governing Council will state I. The date, time and place of the meeting. 2. The general character of the business proposed to be transacted, and 3. A description of any matter for which approval of members is sought. D. The exact wording of any proposed action need not be stated, except that the specific text of any proposed amendments to these bylaws must be stated, and the names and locations of all clubs to be proposed for provisional and full club membership will be stated. Section 4 Presiding Officer of the Governing Council. The President, or in the President's absence, inability or refusal to attend. The Vice Presidents in their order, will preside at all meetings of the Governing Council. Section 5 Quorum of the Governing Council. Delegates or proxies representing no fewer than 10% of the votes entitled to be cast will constitute a quorum of the Governing Council. Section 6 Proxies in the Governing Council. Proxies may be exercised only at duly called meetings of the Governing Council, and may be voted only on matters stated in the notice of the meeting. A. Full member clubs. I. May give a proxy for any one or more of their delegates in the event any such delegate does not attend a meeting in person. 2. The person receiving the proxy must meet the same qualifications required of delegates, except that the proxy holder does not need to be a member of the same club as the delegate from whom they received the proxy. The individual member delegates. I. May give a proxy for their vote in the event any such delegate does not attend a meeting in person. 2. The person receiving the proxy must possess the same qualifications required of delegates. A delegate giving a proxy may only give their proxy to another individual member delegate from their same section. However, if no such individual member delegate is available, the proxy may be given to another individual member delegate from another section. See Athlete delegates. I. Athlete delegates may give a proxy to another athlete delegate for any one or more of their votes in the event any such delegate does not attend a meeting in person. Section 7 Voting in the Governing Council. A voting in the Governing Council will be as provided in Article 7, Section 7, of these bylaws. B. The President or a Vice President acting in the President's stead, in addition to any vote or votes the President may have as a delegate or under a proxy or proxies, may vote to decide a tie. Section 8 Voting Requirements in the Governing Council. The affirmative vote of a majority of the votes cast of the Governing Council present in person or by proxy is necessary for the taking of any action in the Governing Council, except in those cases in which a greater percentage is required by these bylaws or by law. Section 9 Annual Meeting of the Board of Directors. The annual meeting of the Board of Directors is held during the months of October or November at the date, time and place selected and announced by the President with the approval of the Board. Section 10 Regular Meetings of the Board of Directors. In addition to the annual meeting of the Board of Directors, an in-person meeting of the Board will be held in conjunction with the annual meeting of the Governing Council. The Board of Directors will hold up to 10 other regular meetings during the year, anticipated to be on a monthly basis, either by telephone conference call or in person as determined by the President. Section 11 Special Meetings of the Board of Directors. A special meetings of the Board of Directors may be called upon the request of 3 members thereof or by the President. B. A special meeting must be preceded by at least 2 days' notice which states the date, time and place of the meeting but need not describe the purpose of the meeting. Section 12 Announcements and Notices of Meetings of the Board of Directors. A. An announcement of the date and place of each annual meeting will be emailed to all members, including ex officio and Honorary members of the Board of Directors at least 2 months prior to the date of the meeting. B. Notice of meetings of the Board of Directors will be emailed to all members, including ex officio and honorary members thereof. I. At least 20 days before the date of the meeting. 2. Stating the date, time and place of the meeting and the general character of the purposes of the meeting. Section 13. Presiding officer of the Board of Directors. The President, or in the President's absence, inability or refusal to act. The Vice Presidents in their order, will preside at all meetings of the Board of Directors. Section 14. Quorum in the Board of Directors. The presence in person of no fewer than 1/2 of the voting members of the Board of Directors will be necessary to constitute a quorum. Section 15. Voting in the Board of Directors. Voting in the Board of Directors will be as provided in Article 8 of these bylaws. Section 16. Voting requirements in the Board of Directors. If a quorum is present when a vote is taken, the affirmative vote of a majority of the Board of Directors present in person is necessary for the taking of any action by the Board of Directors, except in those instances in which a greater percentage is required by these bylaws or by law. Section 17. Rules of Order at meetings of the Governing Council and the Board of Directors. The rules contained in Roberts' Rules of Order, newly revised, will govern all meetings of the Governing Council and the Board of Directors in all instances in which they are applicable and in which they are not inconsistent with these bylaws. Section 18. Telephonic meetings by the Board of Directors. The Board of Directors may permit any director to participate in a regular or special meeting thereof through the use of any means of communication by which all directors can hear each other during the meeting. A person participating in a meeting in this manner is deemed to be present in person at the meeting. Section 19. Action by the Governing Council without a meeting. Between meetings, votes of the Governing Council may be taken by mail and or by facsimile at the direction of the President, if a written ballot is delivered by U.S. figure skating to every member entitled to vote on the matter. A. The written ballot will set forth each proposed action and provide an opportunity to vote for or against the proposed action. B. Approval by written ballot will only be valid when I. The number of votes cast by ballot equals the quorum required to be present at a meeting authorizing the action, and 2. The number of approvals equals or exceeds the number of votes that would be required to approve the matter at a meeting at which the total number of votes cast was the same as the number of votes cast by ballot. See any solicitation for votes by written ballot will I. Indicate the number of responses necessary to meet the quorum requirements. 2. State the percentage of approvals necessary to approve each matter other than the election of directors. 3. Specify the time by which the ballot must be received by U.S. figure skating in order to be counted, and 4. Be accompanied by written information sufficient to permit each person voting to reach an informed decision. D. Written ballots may not be revoked. E. Notwithstanding the foregoing, any action required or permitted by these bylaws or other provision of law to be taken at a meeting of the Governing Council may be taken without a meeting. I. If a consent in writing, setting forth the action so taken, is signed by all of the members of the Governing Council entitled to vote with respect to the subject matter thereof. 2. To be effective action, all such signed written consents must be received by U.S. figure skating within 60 days after the date when U.S. figure skating receives the earliest dated writing describing and consenting to the action. Section 20. Action by the Board of Directors without a meeting. Between meetings, votes of the Board of Directors may be taken at the direction of the President in the following manner. A. Such action without a meeting may be taken if notice, for purposes of this Section 20, the notice, is transmitted in writing to each member of the Board of Directors and every member of the Board of Directors by the time stated in the notice either I. Votes in writing for such action or 2. Votes in writing against such action, abstains in writing from voting, or fails to respond or vote, and fails to demand in writing that action not be taken without a meeting. B. The notice will state I. The action to be taken. 2. The time by which a director must respond. 3. That failure to respond by the time stated in the notice will have the same effect as A. Abstaining in writing by the time stated in the notice, and B. Failing to demand in writing by the time stated in the notice that action not be taken without a meeting, and for any other matters U.S. figure skating determines to be included in the notice. C. Action is taken only if at the time stated in the notice I. The affirmative votes for such action equal or exceed the minimum number of votes that would be necessary to take such action at a meeting at which all of the directors then in office were present and voted, and 2. U.S. figure skating has not received a written demand by a director that such action not be taken without a meeting other than a demand that has been revoked pursuant to paragraph F of this section 20. D. Any writing by a director under this section 20 must be in a form sufficient to inform U.S. figure skating of the identity of the director, the vote, abstention, demand or revocation of the director, and the proposed action to which such vote, abstention, demand or revocation relates. All communications under this section 20 may be transmitted or received by electronically transmitted facsimile, email or other form of wire or wireless communication. Actions taken will be effective at the end of the time stated in the notice unless the notice states a different effective date. F. Any director who in writing has voted, abstained, or demanded action not be taken without a meeting may revoke such vote, abstention or demand by a writing received by U.S. figure skating by the time stated in the notice. G. Any director's right to demand that action not be taken without a meeting is deemed to have been waived unless U.S. figure skating receives such demand from the director in writing by the time stated in the notice and such demand has not been revoked pursuant to paragraph F of this section 20. H. All action taken pursuant to this section 20 has the same effect as action taken at a meeting of the directors. All writings made pursuant to this section 20 will be filed with the minutes of the meetings of the Board of Directors. I. Notwithstanding the provisions of this section 20, any action required or permitted by these bylaws or other provision of law to be taken at a meeting of the Board of Directors may be taken without a meeting if a consent in writing, setting forth the action so taken, is signed by all of the members of the Board of Directors entitled to vote with respect to the subject matter of the action taken. Section 21 Waiver of Notice. Whenever any notice is required to be given by law, or under the provisions of the Articles of Incorporation or these bylaws, a waiver thereof in writing signed by the person or persons entitled to such notice, whether before or after the time stated therein, will be deemed equivalent to the giving of such notice. Article X. Officers. Section 1 Elected Officers. The elected officers will be a president, 3 vice presidents, 1 from each of the 3 sections set forth in Article 4, Section 2, of these bylaws, a secretary and a treasurer. Section 2 Terms. A. The president will be elected to hold office for a term of 2 years and may hold office for no more than 2 consecutive terms. B. The 3 vice presidents, the secretary and the treasurer will each be elected to hold office for a term of 1 year and may hold office for no more than 4 consecutive terms, except by a vote of 2/3 of the votes cast of the governing council. Delegates present in person or by proxy at the annual meeting of the governing council at which they are elected. Section 3 Executive Director. The Executive Director is A. Elected by the Board of Directors and B. Responsible for and manages the operations of U.S. Figure Skating Headquarters and the publication of Skating Magazine, and such other operations of U.S. Figure Skating as may from time to time be assigned to the Executive Director by the Board of Directors. Section 4 Establishment of Other Offices. The Governing Council may establish such other offices and may appoint such honorary and other officers with such powers and duties as it may from time to time determine. Section 5 Qualifications of Officers. Each officer of U.S. Figure Skating must be A. At least 18 years of age, B. A registered member of U.S. Figure Skating, and C. Otherwise qualified to serve in accordance with the official rules of U.S. Figure Skating. Section 6 Officers of other national governing bodies. No officer will simultaneously serve as an officer of any other amateur sports organization which is recognized by the U.S. Olympic Committee as a national governing body. Section 7 Removal. Any officer may be removed at any time for cause by a 2/3 vote of the Board of Directors, excluding the vote of the affected officer, provided. A. Due notice of the meeting of the board, or of the proposal that the board of directors take action without a meeting in accordance with the provisions of Article 9, Section 20, of these bylaws, has been given to the affected officer and b. The affected officer is afforded a fair opportunity to be heard by the board or to submit a written statement to the board prior to action by the board of directors. C. Such action by the board of directors will be final and binding and, therefore, will not be subject to action by the governing council as otherwise provided by Article 8, Section 10, of these bylaws. Section 8. Vacancies. All vacancies in the elected officer positions will be filled by an affirmative vote of a majority of the remaining directors. An officer elected to fill a vacancy will be elected for the unexpired term of such officer's predecessor in office, and is eligible to be elected thereafter to serve for the maximum number of terms allowed by these bylaws. Article 11. President. Section 1. Duties. The President A. Presides at all meetings of the Governing Council and the Board of Directors. B. Generally supervises the activities of U.S. figure skating. C. Signs all agreements and contracts made by U.S. figure skating where the amount of the financial commitment exceeds $50,000. D. Appoints I. The chairs of the permanent committees, with the exception of the Athletes Advisory Committee, the Audit Committee, and the Finance Committee. 2. The representatives and delegates to the I-XVI and such other organizations with which U.S. figure skating is affiliated. E. Serves as U.S. figure skating's representative to the USAC National Governing Bodies Council, and F. Has the right to remove the chairs in paragraph DI, subject to the provisions of Article 16, Section 3 and Article 18, Section 1, of these bylaws, and the representatives in paragraph D2, with the concurrence of the Board of Directors, provided that such power does not extend to the appointment or removal of any officeholders elected by the Governing Council. Section 2. Membership on committees. The President is an ex officio member of all committees except the Nominating Committee. Article 12. Vice Presidents. Section 1. Duties. A. The Vice Presidents, in their order, will perform the duties of the President in the President's absence, inability or refusal to act. B. With respect to the section in which each resides when elected, the Vice Presidents will be responsible for I. All matters relating to the advancement of figure skating in all its branches. 2. The promotion of harmony among all of its members and member clubs. 3. The solution of problems, and 4. The carrying out of the government and purposes of U.S. figure skating in cooperation with its officers and committees. Article 13. Secretary. Section 1. Duties. The Secretary A. Keeps or causes to be kept the records of U.S. figure skating and of all meetings of the Governing Council and the Board of Directors. B. Prepares or causes to be prepared minutes of all meetings of the Governing Council and the Board of Directors. C. Issues notices of all meetings of the Governing Council and the Board of Directors, and D. With the President, signs all agreements and contracts made by U.S. figure skating where the amount of the financial commitment exceeds $50,000 and if so directed by the Governing Council or the Board of Directors. Article 14. Treasurer. Section 1. Duties. The Treasurer A. Serves as Chair of the Finance Committee. B. Has general control and supervision of the finances of U.S. figure skating, including the examination of the books, accounts, and records of all officers, committees and persons who handle any of the financial affairs of U.S. figure skating. C. Will cause to be prepared an annual itemized budget for submission to each annual meeting of the Governing Council. D. Supervises and regulates the carrying out of such budget as adopted by the Governing Council. E. Will cause to be kept full and correct accounts of the receipts and expenditures and of the property of U.S. figure skating in books belonging to U.S. figure skating. F. Will cause to be deposited all monies received in the name and to the credit of U.S. figure skating in such depositories as the Treasurer or the Board of Directors may designate from time to time. G. Will disperse or cause to be dispersed the funds of U.S. figure skating. H. With the approval of the Board of Directors, has authority to invest and reinvest funds and to sell, exchange, assign and transfer securities and other investment assets belonging to U.S. figure skating. I renders to the President, the Governing Council, and the Board of Directors, whenever requested by any of them, an account of all the transactions as Treasurer, and J presents a full financial report each year to the annual meeting of the Governing Council. Article 15. Nominations and elections of officers and Board of Directors. Section 1 Nominating Committee. Each year a 12-member nominating committee will be established consisting of A. 9 registered members, none of whom represent the same region, consisting of I. 3 members, 1 from each section, elected in odd-numbered years by the Governing Council full-member club. Delegates and individual member delegates from that section to serve 2-year terms, and 2. 6 members, 2 from each section, elected in even-numbered years by the Governing Council full-member club. Delegates and individual member delegates from that section to serve 2-year terms. 3. Elections will be conducted as set forth in Rules NCR 3.003.02. B. 3 registered athlete members who satisfy the criteria for athlete representation on U.S. figure skating committees, set forth in Article 16, Section 5, of these bylaws, each representing a different section, will be elected by the athletes' advisory committee to serve 1-year terms. C. Only athlete members may serve consecutive terms on the nominating committee. Day members of the nominating committee are ineligible to be nominated or elected for any office, or to be recommended, appointed or elected as a permanent committee chair while they are serving as a member of the nominating committee. E. The nominating committee will elect one of its members to act as the chair of the committee. Section 2 Nominations for officers and directors. The nominating committee. A presents to the annual meeting of the Governing Council in the immediately following year the names of the qualified persons nominated by it for officers and for such number of additional voting members of the Board of Directors as are to be elected pursuant to provisions of Section 4 of this article. B. Designates one of the nominees for Vice President as First Vice President, one as Second Vice President and one as Third Vice President. C. Receives from the Athletes Advisory Committee the names of the athletes elected in accordance with the provisions of Article 15, Section 4, for presentation to the Governing Council. D. Submits a report to be included in the written notice of meetings of the Governing Council as described in Article 9, Section 3, of these bylaws. Section 3 Other nominations. Other nominations for such offices and for the Board of Directors may be made in accordance with the procedures set forth in the nominating committee rules. Section 4 Elections. A. The Governing Council, by majority vote of the votes cast of the Governing Council delegates present in person or by proxy, elects I. A President, 3 Vice Presidents, a Secretary and a Treasurer to hold office for a term specified in Article X, Section 2. Commencing upon the conclusion of the meeting at which elected or until their respective successors are elected and assume office, and 2. Such number of additional voting members of the Board of Directors as are to be elected pursuant to the provisions in Article 8, Section 2, of these bylaws for a term specified in Article 8, Section 3, of these bylaws, commencing upon the conclusion of the meeting at which elected or until their respective successors are elected and assume office. B. The Athletes Advisory Committee elects 4 athlete members of the Board of Directors, 1 representing each discipline of ice dance, pairs, singles and synchronized skating, pursuant to the provisions of Article 8, Sections 2 and 4, b, of these bylaws for a term of 1 year commencing upon the conclusion of the meeting of the Governing Council at which elections under Paragraph A of this Section 4 occur, or until their respective successors are elected and assume office. From the 4 elected members, 3 will be voting members and 1 will be non-voting. The elected chair of the Athletes Advisory Committee will always be a voting member. From the remaining 3 athlete board members, the non-voting member will rotate annually among the disciplines in alphabetical order. Article 16. Committees. Section 1 Permanent Committees. Through April 2019, U.S. Figure Skating has the following permanent committees. 1. Adult Skating 17. Memorial Fund. 2. Athlete Development 18. Bears. 3. Athletes Advisory 19. Parents. 4. Audit 20. Program Development. 5. Coaches 21. Rules. 6. Collegiate Program 22. Sanctions and Eligibility. 7. Compensation 23. Safe Sport. 8. Competitions 24. Selections. 9. Dance 25. Singles. 10. Ethics 26. Special Olympics, Therapeutic Skating. 11. Finance 27. Sports Sciences and Medicine. 12. Grievance 28. State Games. 13. International 29.